Please, you have to help me. They're beating my mom. Those words changed everything. I'm talking about the kind of change that rewrites your entire existence, the kind that makes you look back at your life and see a clear line between who you were before and who you became after. But let me tell you something about desperation and courage. Sometimes they look exactly the same. Sometimes a 7-year-old girl biting through flesh and running into a stranger's world is the bravest thing you'll ever witness. My name is Vincent Kane, and this is the story of how a child's tears and a woman's strength turned a man who dealt in violence into someone capable of something I thought I'd lost the right to feel. Love. Family. Hope. The kind of hope that doesn't come from power or money or fear, but from seeing someone look at you like you're worth saving too. But I'm getting ahead of myself. You're probably watching this from somewhere comfortable right now, maybe your living room or your bedroom, and I hope you're doing well. I hope the weather is treating you kindly wherever you are in the world. Because I need you to understand something before we go further. This isn't just my story. It's a story about what happens when two broken people find each other in the worst possible moment and somehow make each other whole. It's about a little girl who refused to let evil win. It's about a woman who fought through hell with nothing but her bare hands and her love for her daughter. And it's about me learning that the heart I thought died years ago was just waiting for the right people to bring it back to life. So if you're ready for a story that will make you believe in second chances, in the power of unlikely connections, in the idea that sometimes the worst night of your life leads to the best thing that ever happened to you, then stay with me. Hit that like button, subscribe if you haven't already, and share this with someone who needs to hear that miracles can happen in the darkest places. But let me start from the beginning. Let me take you back to that night. I was 34 years old, and I'd been running my organization for 6 years. People feared my name. They should have. I'd built an empire on calculated violence and strategic intimidation. I wasn't a monster who hurt innocents, but I wasn't a saint either. I operated in the gray spaces where law and order blurred into something more primal. Protection. Territory. Respect. These were my currencies, and I traded in them with ruthless efficiency. The night everything changed started like any other Tuesday. I was having dinner at Russo's, this Italian place on 5th Street that I owned through a series of shell companies. The owner, Anthony, he knew me. He knew what I was. But he also knew I kept his restaurant safe, kept the neighborhood clean of the kind of trash that preyed on working people. I had my standards, twisted as they might have been. I was alone that night. My son Julian was at home with Maria, our housekeeper. He was 9 years old, and every time I looked at him, I saw his mother, Rebecca. She died bringing him into this world, and I died a little with her. The man I was before that moment, the man who believed in building something legitimate, in leaving the life my father had dragged me into, that man got buried with her. What emerged was harder, colder, more dangerous. But Julian, he was my anchor. He reminded me that I was still human underneath all the violence and blood. I worked every day to make sure he never saw that side of me, to keep him innocent in a world that had stolen my innocence before I turned 12. I was halfway through my meal, reviewing some financial reports on my phone, when I heard the door burst open. The restaurant went silent. You have to understand, Russo's wasn't some public place where just anyone wandered in. It was exclusive. Invitation only. The kind of place where people knew better than to cause disruptions. But this wasn't a disruption. This was desperation wearing the face of a child. She was tiny, this little girl with dark curls matted with sweat and tears streaming down her face. Her dress was torn at the shoulder. Her knees were scraped and bleeding. Her eyes were wild with terror and determination, and she was scanning the room like she was looking for God himself. And then her eyes locked on mine. I don't know what she saw. Maybe it was the way I carried myself. Maybe it was the fact that everyone else in that restaurant looked away when she burst in, but I stared right back at her. Maybe it was something deeper, something neither of us could explain. But she ran straight to my table, and before Anthony could intercept her, She grabbed my arm with both her small hands. Please, you have to help me. They're beating my mom. Her voice cracked on the word mom. Fresh tears poured down her face. Her hands were shaking, but her grip was iron strong. This child had run through hell to find help, and she'd chosen me. Where? I asked. My voice was calm, but something in my chest tightened. I'd seen a lot of terrible things in my life. I'd done terrible things. But there were lines even I didn't cross, and I knew instantly what those tears meant. What kind of situation would make a child risk everything to find a stranger? The alley. 2 blocks down. Please, they have her. They won't stop. I bit one of them and ran. Please. She was gulping air between words. Her whole body was trembling, and I saw something in her eyes that I recognized. The same thing I saw in Julian's eyes when he woke up from nightmares about the mother he never knew. Pure, unfiltered fear mixed with desperate hope. I stood up. Every man in that restaurant watched me. They knew what it meant when Vincent Kane stood up with that look on his face. Anthony started to speak, but I cut him off with a single gesture. Call Marco. Tell him to bring the car to the alley between 5th and Morrison, 2 blocks south. Tell him to come heavy and come fast. Then I looked down at the girl. She couldn't have been more than 7 or 8. Her brown eyes were so wide, so terrified, but she hadn't let go of my arm. She was still holding on like I was her last hope in the world. What's your name? I asked. Lily, she whispered. My mom is Natalie. Please don't let them hurt her. I won't, I said. And I meant it with every fiber of my being. Stay here with Anthony. I'm going to get your mother. No, she said immediately. I'm coming with you. I have to show you where. I should have argued. I should have left her there where it was safe. But something about the steel in her voice, the determination in her tear-stained face, it reminded me that this child had already been through hell tonight. Leaving her behind, making her wait and wonder if I was really going to help, that might break her. All right, I said. But you stay behind me. You understand? No matter what you see, you stay behind me. She nodded so hard her curls bounced. And then we were moving. The street was dark. It was nearly 11 at night, and this part of town, it wasn't the kind of place where people walked around after dark. Most of the street lights were broken. The ones that worked cast these sickly yellow pools of light that somehow made the shadows deeper. Lily was running ahead of me, her small legs pumping, and I kept pace easily. My mind was already calculating. 5 men, she'd said. Armed or unarmed. Organized or opportunistic. Did they know who they'd targeted, or was this random violence? And in that moment, I felt something I hadn't felt in 6 years. Pure, rajtjas rađe. Lily, stay here, I said quietly. Then I stepped into the alley. The man with the belt saw me first. He was tall, heavy-set, with a face that spoke of a lifetime of violence. He sneered at me. Walk away, friend. This doesn't concern you. Let her go, I said. My voice was flat. Cold. The voice that had made grown men confess to crimes they didn't commit just to escape the promise in that tone. He laughed. His friends laughed too. They thought I was just some civilian who'd wandered into the wrong place. They had no idea who I was, what I was capable of. I said walk away, the man repeated, reaching into his jacket. I saw the gun before he fully drew it, but I was faster. I closed the distance between us in 3 strides. My hand caught his wrist before the gun cleared his waistband. I twisted hard, felt the bones snap, and caught the weapon as it fell. Then I drove my elbow into his throat, and he went down choking. The other 4 released Natalie and came at me. They were big men, confident in their numbers, used to overwhelming their victims with size and brutality. But they weren't fighters. Not really. They were predators who fed on the weak. I was something else entirely. The first one reached me, and I put the gun against his knee and pulled the trigger. The shot echoed in the alley, and he went down screaming. The second one I met with the butt of the gun across his face. Teeth and blood sprayed. The third one actually had some training. He came in low, trying to tackle me. I brought my knee up into his face and felt his nose explode. Then I threw him into the fourth one, and they both crashed into the wall. It took maybe 30 seconds. For men down. The fifth, the one with the broken wrist, he was trying to crawl away. I walked over to him, pressed the gun against the back of his head.
"Who sent you?" I asked.
"Nobody," he gasped. We saw her walking alone." Random violence. Somehow that made it worse. These men had seen a woman trying to get home from work and decided she was prey. "You made a mistake tonight," I said. "You hurt someone under my protection. You tried to destroy something innocent, and now you're going to pay for that." I should have pulled the trigger.
Part of me wanted to.
But I heard a small voice behind me. Vincent. Lily. She'd followed me into the alley despite my instructions. She was looking at her mother, who was trying to sit up, trying to cover herself with her torn scrubs, trying to be strong for her daughter, even though she was broken and bleeding. I couldn't kill these men in front of that child. I wouldn't add that to the nightmare she'd already lived through tonight. So instead I stood up, keeping the gun trained on them. "Run," I said quietly. "Run and pray I never see your faces again." They ran. All 5 of them, stumbling and bleeding and terrified. They disappeared into the darkness, and I let them go. But I didn't see the gun. The one with the broken wrist, he'd had a second weapon tucked in his boot. As he ran, he turned and fired blindly. The bullet caught me in the left side, just below my ribs. The impact spun me around, and I went to one knee. Lily screamed. Natalie screamed. And then Natalie was there, pressing her hands against my side, her face close to mine. "Don't move," she said. Her voice was strong despite everything she'd just been through. Professional. Controlled. "Lily, baby, come here. Press your hands on top of mine. Just like this. We have to stop the bleeding." I looked up at her. Her face was swollen, one eye nearly closed. Her lip was split and still bleeding. Her scrubs were torn and soaked with blood, some of it mine now. But her eyes, they were clear and focused and determined. "You came," she whispered, looking at me like I was some kind of miracle. "You actually came." "I promised," I said. Then the world tilted sideways, and everything went dark. I woke up to pain and the smell of antiseptic. My side felt like someone had pressed a hot iron against it and left it there. When I tried to move, a hand pressed gently but firmly against my shoulder. "Don't," Natalie said. Her voice was soft but commanding. "You'll tear the stitches." I opened my eyes. I was lying on a couch in a small living room. The furniture was old but clean, everything arranged with care to make the most of the limited space. Children's drawings covered one wall. A small television sat on a second-hand stand. This was a home built on love and hard work, not money. Natalie sat beside me on the edge of the couch. Someone had cleaned her face and given her fresh clothes, simple cotton pants and a t-shirt. But I could see the damage now in the daylight filtering through thin curtains. Her left eye was swollen nearly shut, purple and black. Her bottom lip had required stitches. Bruises covered her arms in the shape of fingers where those men had held her down. And yet she'd still managed to save my life. "How long was I out?" I asked. 4 hours. It's almost dawn." She stood up carefully, moving like someone who hurt everywhere but refused to show it. "You lost a lot of blood. The bullet went clean through, which was lucky. No major organs hit. But you need real medical attention. A hospital." "No hospitals," I said immediately. "They ask questions. File reports. I can't afford that kind of attention." She looked at me for a long moment. Those eyes, they were hazel with flecks of gold, and even swollen and bruised, they were the most beautiful eyes I'd ever seen. They were intelligent eyes. Eyes that had seen too much pain but hadn't lost their kindness. "You're the one Lily ran to," she said quietly. The man in the restaurant. You saved us. You could have walked away, but you didn't.
Why?
I didn't have a good answer. Or maybe I did, but I wasn't ready to examine it too closely. Something about that little girl's desperation. Something about the way Natalie had kept fighting even when 5 men held her down. Something about recognizing in them the kind of strength I'd thought only existed in my memories of Rebecca. I have a son, I said instead. He's 9. If something happened to me, if he was alone and scared and needed help, I'd want someone to answer when he called. I answered. Tears filled her eyes, but she blinked them back. What's your name? Your real name? Vincent Kane.
I watched her process that.
Watched recognition flicker across her face. She knew the name. Everyone in this city knew the name Vincent Kane. Some feared it. Some respected it. Most both. You're the one they call the Winter King, she said. Not a question. A statement. Yes. Because you're cold. Ruthless. Because you run half the city's underworld from the shadows. Yes. She should have been terrified. She should have demanded I leave her home immediately. Instead, she sat back down beside me, checked my pulse with professional efficiency, then looked at me with those devastating eyes. My name is Natalie Rivers. I'm a nurse at County General Hospital. I've been working there for 8 years. I work double shifts whenever I can because Lily deserves better than what I can give her. I grew up in foster care after my parents died in a car accident when I was 6. I aged out of the system at 18 with nothing but a high school diploma and a determination to build a life worth living. I put myself through nursing school working 3 jobs. I met Lily's father when I was 22. He promised me forever. He gave me 6 months and a daughter he never met. He left when I was 4 months pregnant, and I haven't heard from him since. She took a breath. Her hands were shaking, but her voice stayed steady. I work nights because the pay is better and Lily stays with Mrs. Chun next door. She's 76 and she loves Lily like her own granddaughter. Last night was supposed to be my night off, but Rachel called in sick, so I covered her shift. I left the hospital at 10:30. I always take 5th Street because it's well lit and there are cameras. But there was construction blocking the street, so I had a detour. I took the alley because I was tired and I just wanted to get home to my daughter. And those men, they came out of nowhere. They grabbed me and I tried to fight, but there were too many and I'm so tired. I'm always so tired. Her voice broke on the last word, just cracked right down the middle. And then she was crying, really crying, these deep-wrenching sobs that shook her whole body. All the fear and trauma she'd been holding back for Lily's sake, for my sake, it came pouring out. I sat up despite the pain screaming through my side and pulled her against me. She buried her face in my chest and cried like the world was ending. And maybe hers had. Maybe the fragile safety she'd built for herself and her daughter had shattered in that alley, and she was only now realizing how close she'd come to losing everything. You're safe now, I said quietly. My hand moved to her hair, smoothing it back from her face with a gentleness I'd forgotten I possessed. I promise you, Natalie. You and Lily are safe now. Those men will never touch you again. No one will. You don't understand, she whispered against my chest. They almost, and Lily saw.
She saw what they were trying to do to me. How do I protect her from that?
How do I make her feel safe again when I can't even make myself feel safe? The same way you saved my life after I saved yours, I said. The same way you put yourself through nursing school, working 3 jobs. The same way you give your daughter a home filled with love even though you work yourself to exhaustion. You survive. You fight. You refuse to let evil win. She pulled back to look at me. Her face was a mess of tears and bruises and swelling. And she was the most beautiful woman I'd ever seen. Why are you being kind to me? She asked. Men like you, I've seen what they do. I've stitched up their victims in the emergency room. I know what you are. Yes, I said. You do. And I'm not going to pretend I'm a good man, Natalie. I've done things that would make you sick. I've hurt people. I've destroyed lives. I operate in a world where violence is currency and mercy is weakness. But I have rules. I don't hurt innocents. I don't prey on the vulnerable. And I sure as hell don't stand by while 5 men try to destroy a woman whose only crime was working herself to death to give her daughter a better life. I stood up carefully, feeling the pull of the stitches she'd sewn with steady hands while her own face bled. My shirt was ruined, soaked with blood. My side throbbed with every heartbeat. But I needed to leave. I needed to get home to Julian before he woke up and found me missing. "Where are you going?" Natalie asked, standing with me. "You need rest. You need antibiotics. You need someone to monitor that wound for infection." "I need to get home to my son," I said. "He'll be waking up soon, and I promised him I'd be there for breakfast." I keep my promises. "At least let me change the dressing first. And I'm giving you antibiotics. I keep supplies here for emergencies." She moved toward a small cabinet in the corner. Perks of being a nurse. I can't afford to take Lily to the doctor every time she gets sick, so I keep what I need on hand. She worked quickly and efficiently, cleaning the wound and applying fresh bandages. Her hands were gentle despite everything she'd been through. When she was done, she handed me a bottle of pills. "Take these twice a day with food. All of them. Don't stop just because you feel better. If the wound shows any signs of infection, redness, swelling, discharge, fever, you call me immediately." She pulled a piece of paper from a drawer and wrote down her number in neat, precise handwriting. "I mean it, Vincent. You could still die from this if it gets infected. Promise me you'll call if something feels wrong." "I promise," I said, taking the paper. Our fingers brushed, and I felt electricity shoot up my arm. From the way her eyes widened, she felt it too. A small voice interrupted the moment. "Mom." Lily stood in the doorway of what must have been the bedroom, rubbing her eyes. She was wearing pajamas with cartoon characters on them. Her hair was messy from sleep. When she saw me standing there, her face lit up. "You're okay." She ran to me and wrapped her arms around my legs, hugging tight. "I was so scared. You fell down and there was so much blood, and Mom was crying, and I didn't know if you were going to wake up." I looked down at this brave little girl who'd run through hell to save her mother. I reached down and picked her up carefully, ignoring the protest from my side. She wrapped her arms around my neck and buried her face against my shoulder. "I'm okay," I told her. "Your mom saved me. She's pretty amazing." "I know," Lily said, pulling back to look at me. "She's the best mom in the whole world. She works really hard, so I can have nice things. Sometimes she's so tired she falls asleep while reading me stories, but she still always reads to me. Every single night." I looked at Natalie over Lily's shoulder. She was watching us with an expression I couldn't quite read. Something soft and vulnerable and hopeful. "Does your mom know you're the bravest girl I've ever met?" I asked Lily. She giggled. "I'm not brave. I was really scared." "Being brave doesn't mean you're not scared," I told her. "It means you're scared, but you do the right thing anyway. You ran into a room full of strangers to save your mother. You bit a bad man hard enough to get free. You didn't give up. That's the definition of brave." "My mom is brave too," Lily said. "She fights the bad guys every day at the hospital. She saves people." "Yes, she does," I agreed, setting Lily down gently. My side was screaming at me now. I needed to get home, take those antibiotics, and rest before I passed out again. But I also needed to make sure Natalie understood something important. "Can I talk to your mom alone for just a minute?" I asked Lily. "Grown-up stuff." She nodded and skipped off toward the kitchen. I heard the refrigerator open, the sound of her humming to herself. "Vincent," Natalie started, but I held up my hand. "Those men," I said quietly, "the ones who attacked you, they won't be coming back. I have people looking for them. When we find them, and we will find them, they'll face justice. My kind of justice." "I don't want you to kill anyone for me," she said quickly. "I don't want that on my conscience." Then it's a good thing you won't know the details, I replied. But understand this, Natalie. You saved my life tonight. That creates a bond.
A debt.
In my world, debts like that are sacred. You and Lily are under my protection now. Anyone who tries to hurt you answers to me. That's not negotiable. I didn't save your life to create some kind of obligation, she said. I did it because you saved mine first. Because you helped us when no one else would. Because despite everything I know about you, about men like you showed up when my daughter asked for help. We're even.
We're not even, I said. We'll never be even.
Because you didn't just save my life. You reminded me I still have one worth saving. I pulled out my wallet and extracted a business card. It had just a phone number on it, nothing else. This number reaches me directly. Day or night. If you need anything, if you're scared, if someone threatens you, if you just need to talk, you call me. And I will answer. Every single time. She took the card slowly, studying it. Why are you doing this? She asked. Really? The truth. I looked at her standing there in her small living room with her daughter's drawings on the walls and her second-hand furniture, and her face beaten to hell but her spirit still unbroken. I thought about Rebecca and how I'd failed to protect her from the complications that took her life. I thought about Julian growing up without a mother. I thought about the coldness that had filled the space where my heart used to be. And I thought about how, for just a moment when Lily grabbed my arm and begged me to help her mother, I'd felt something warm flicker to life in that frozen space. Because 6 years ago I lost someone I loved, I said. And I spent every day since then building walls so high and thick that nothing could ever hurt me again. But tonight, your daughter showed me that sometimes the walls we build to protect ourselves just trap us in the cold. And you showed me that there are still people in this world worth protecting, worth caring about, worth risking everything for. Tears spilled down her cheeks. I don't know what to say. Say you'll call me if you need me, I replied. That's all I'm asking. I'll call, she whispered. If we need you. Good. I headed for the door. My car would be nearby, Marco would have seen to that. But Natalie's voice stopped me. Vincent. I turned back.
Thank you, she said.
For everything. For coming when Lily asked. For saving us. For not being the monster I expected you to be. Don't thank me yet, I said. I'm still a monster, Natalie. I just choose very carefully who I'm monstrous toward. Then I left before I could do something stupid like promise her I'd stop being a monster entirely. Because that was a promise I couldn't keep. Not in my world. Not with the enemies I had. Not with the life I'd built. But as I walked to where Marco waited with the car, I found myself thinking about hazel eyes and a brave little girl and what it might be like to have something worth coming home to besides just my son. The ride home was quiet. Marco knew better than to ask questions when I was bleeding and thoughtful. He just drove while I stared out the window and replayed the night in my mind. Julian was still asleep when I got home. Maria was in the kitchen making breakfast. She took one look at me and gasped. Don Vincenzo, what happened? Nothing I couldn't handle, I said. I need you to do something for me. Find out everything you can about a woman named Natalie Rivers. She's a nurse at County General. She has a 7-year-old daughter named Lily. I want to know about her finances, her debts, any trouble she's in. Be discreet. Maria nodded. She'd been with my family since I was a boy. She knew what discreet meant in our world. I made it to my bedroom before Julian woke up, changed my bloody clothes, took the antibiotics Natalie had given me, and lay down on top of the covers. My side throbbed. My head pounded. But all I could think about was the way Natalie had looked at me when I promised to protect her. Like I was something more than the Winter King. Like I was just a man. 3 days passed before I saw Natalie again. 3 days of healing, of dealing with the usual business that came with running an empire built on fear and respect, of trying not to think about hazel eyes and the way her hands had felt against my skin when she'd stitched me up. But I thought about her anyway. Constantly. Maria had delivered her report the morning after the attack. Natalie Rivers, 29 years old, single mother, worked at County General for 8 years. Excellent employee record. No criminal history. No debts except student loans she'd been paying off religiously for 7 years. Rent on her small apartment was always on time despite the double shifts she worked to make ends meet. Lily attended public school, good grades, no behavioral issues. They had no family, no support system except an elderly neighbor who watched Lily when Natalie worked nights. They were alone in the world, just like Julian and I were alone. The report also included something that made my blood run cold. The night of the attack, Natalie had been scheduled off. She'd covered for a colleague named Rachel Bennett who'd called in sick. Except Rachel hadn't been sick. She'd been at a casino downtown, drinking and gambling, while Natalie walked into hell because she was too kind to say no. And there was more. Those 5 men who'd attacked Natalie, 3 of them had been found. Not by my people. By the police. They tried to rob a convenience store 2 nights after attacking Natalie, and the owner had shot one of them. The other 2 were arrested. In their statements, they'd mentioned the woman they'd attacked before, the nurse they'd almost destroyed. The police had contacted Natalie, wanted her to come in and identify them, testify against them, which meant those men were going to walk eventually. The justice system was slow and broken. They'd get a few years at most. And when they got out, they'd remember the woman who'd put them away. They'd remember her face, her address, her daughter. I couldn't let that happen. So on the 3rd day, I sent Marco to deliver a message. I wanted to see Natalie. Not at her apartment. Somewhere neutral. Somewhere safe. I suggested a coffee shop 3 blocks from the hospital, nice neighborhood, cameras everywhere, the kind of place where a nurse could meet someone without raising eyebrows. She agreed to meet me during her lunch break. I arrived early, chose a table in the back corner where I could see the entrance, and waited. Julian was with me. I decided it was time he met the little girl who'd saved my life by saving hers. Time he understood that strength came in all sizes, and that bravery wasn't about how big you were, but how fierce your heart was. He sat across from me, curious but patient. At 9 years old, Julian was already learning to read situations, to understand that sometimes his father needed to handle business in unexpected ways. He had his mother's eyes, dark and intelligent, and her smile. The smile I rarely saw anymore because I'd been so focused on keeping him safe that I'd forgotten to teach him how to be happy. "Dad," he said quietly. "Who are we meeting?" "A friend," I said. "Someone who helped me when I was hurt. And her daughter." "The little girl you told me about? The one who ran to find you?" "Yes." His eyes lit up. "Can I meet her? Is she nice?" "She's very brave," I said. "And I think you'll like her." The door opened and Natalie walked in. She was wearing her scrubs, light blue, with little flowers on them. Her face had healed somewhat, the swelling down, but the bruises were still visible. Dark purple and yellow marks that spoke of violence and survival. She tried to cover them with makeup, but it wasn't quite enough. She spotted me immediately, and something flashed across her face. Relief, maybe. Or fear. Or something in between. She walked over slowly, and then I saw Lily behind her, holding her mother's hand tight. Lily was wearing a school uniform, a simple dress and cardigan. Her hair was pulled back in a ponytail. When she saw me, her whole face transformed. She let go of her mother's hand and ran straight to me. "Vincent," she said, throwing her arms around my neck as I stood to greet her. "You're okay?"
I was so worried about you.
"Mom said you were tough, but I kept thinking about all the blood, and I had nightmares, but Mom said nightmares can't hurt you, and you were going to be fine." I hugged her back, this tiny force of nature who'd changed everything. "I'm fine," I assured her. "Thanks to your mom. She took very good care of me." Lily pulled back and noticed Julian. Her eyes went wide. "Who's that?" she asked. "This is my son, Julian," I said. "Julian, this is Lily. She's the brave girl I told you about." Julian stood up slowly. He was shy around new people, always had been. But something about Lily's open smile and bright eyes made him relax. "Hi," he said quietly. "My dad says you saved his life." "My mom saved his life," Lily corrected. "I just got help. But he saved my mom first, so really they saved each other." "That's called being even," Julian said. "That's what my mom says too." Lily's eyes lit up. "Do you want to see my drawing? I drew a picture of the restaurant where I found your dad. I'm not very good at drawing people, but I tried really hard." She pulled out a crumpled piece of paper from her backpack. It was a child's drawing, simple and sweet, showing stick figures and a building. But you could see the emotion in it, the care she'd taken. Julian studied it seriously. "I think it's good," he said. "I like to draw too. Maybe we could draw together sometime." "Really?" Lily's face lit up like someone had given her the best present in the world. "That would be so cool. Do you like dinosaurs?" "I love dinosaurs. My favorite is the Triceratops because they have 3 horns and they're really strong." "I like velociraptors," Julian said. And just like that, they were talking like old friends. Natalie sat down across from me, watching the children with an expression of wonder and something that looked like pain. "He's beautiful," she said quietly, nodding toward Julian. "He has kind eyes." "He has his mother's eyes," I said. "She died when he was born. Complications during delivery. She was the best person I'd ever known, and I lost her trying to bring our son into the world." Natalie reached across the table and took my hand. Just held it. No words. Just understanding. "I'm sorry," she finally said. "That must have been impossibly hard." "It made me into who I am today," I said. "Cold. Dangerous. Someone who protects what's his with absolute ruthlessness, because I couldn't protect her." "You're not cold," Natalie said. "You're wounded. There's a difference." I looked at her hands. Hers was small and delicate with neat, short nails. A nurse's hands. Practical. Capable. They'd saved my life. And for some reason I couldn't explain, I didn't want to let go. But I had to. Because I hadn't asked her here for coffee and pleasant conversation. "The men who attacked you," I said quietly. 3 of them have been arrested." Her face went pale. "I know. The police called me. They want me to testify." "You can't," I said immediately. "It's too dangerous." "I have to," she said. "If I don't, they might go free. They might hurt someone else. Another woman. Another mother. I have to testify." "Listen to me." I leaned forward, keeping my voice low so the children wouldn't hear. "Those men will get a few years at most. Maybe less with good behavior. And when they get out, they'll remember you. They'll remember Lily. The justice system won't protect you. I can." "How?" she asked. "By killing them?" "I told you, I don't want that on my conscience." "Then what do you want?" I asked. "Because doing nothing isn't an option. Testifying puts a target on your back. Not testifying lets them walk free. Either way, you're not safe." She pulled her hand away from mine. "I want my daughter to grow up in a world where women don't have to rely on criminals for protection. I want to believe that the system works, that justice exists, that good people doing the right thing actually matters." "That's a beautiful dream," I said. "But it's not reality. Not in this city. Not in this world." "Then maybe we need to change the world," she said fiercely. Those hazel eyes were blazing now, filled with determination and defiance. "Maybe we need to stop accepting that this is just how things are and start fighting for how things should be." I wanted to tell her she was naive. That the world didn't change just because good people wanted it to. That justice was a myth told to keep people compliant. That the only real protection came from power and fear and the willingness to do violence on behalf of those you loved. But looking at her, at the strength in her battered face and the fire in her eyes, I couldn't say any of those things. Because maybe she was right. Maybe the world didn't change because people like me accepted that it couldn't. Maybe it took someone like her, someone who'd been beaten and terrorized and nearly destroyed, to stand up and say enough. "All right," I said. You testify.
You do it your way.
But you let me keep you safe while you do it. You and Lily move in with Julian and me until the trial is over. What? She stared at me like I'd suggested we fly to the moon. I can't move in with you. I don't even know you. You know I saved your life. You know I have the resources to protect you. You know those men are terrified of me. And you know that if something happens to you, Lily ends up alone in the same foster system that raised you. Is your pride worth that risk? It was a low blow, and I knew it. But I also knew it was the truth. Natalie had no family, no support system, no one who could protect Lily if something happened to her. She'd spent her whole life alone, fighting for everything she had, and the idea of accepting help probably felt like admitting defeat. But sometimes accepting help was the bravest thing you could do. My house is big, I continued. Plenty of room. Maria, my housekeeper, she's wonderful with children. Julian could use a friend. And I can make sure no one gets within 100 yards of you or Lily without my permission. You'd be safe. Both of you. Completely safe.
For how long? She asked.
The trial could take months. Then you stay for months, I said simply. As long as it takes. And what do you get out of this? Her eyes narrowed. Men like you don't do favors without expecting something in return. You're right, I admitted. I do want something. I want to wake up every morning knowing that the woman who saved my life and the little girl who showed me I'm still human are safe. I want my son to have a friend who reminds him that bravery isn't about being big or strong or scary. I want to look in the mirror and see something other than the monster everyone thinks I am. That's what I get out of this. Natalie was quiet for a long time. She looked over at the children. Lily and Julian were drawing together now, their heads bent close, sharing crayons and giggling about something. They looked happy, natural together, like they'd been friends forever instead of 10 minutes. One condition, Natalie finally said. I pay rent. I won't be a charity case. I work, I earn money, I pay my way. That's non-negotiable. Deal, I said immediately. I didn't need her money. I could buy 100 apartments like hers without noticing the expense. But I understood what she was saying. She needed to maintain her dignity, her independence. She needed to not feel like she owed me, even though we both knew she didn't owe me anything. If anything, I owed her. When do we move? She asked.
Today, I said. Right now.
Marco is waiting outside. He'll take you to get whatever you need from your apartment. Tomorrow we'll arrange for the rest of your things to be moved. But tonight, you and Lily sleep in a house with security cameras and armed guards and walls thick enough to stop anything short of a tank. Tonight, you sleep safely. Tears filled her eyes again, but she blinked them back. You make it very hard to maintain my independent woman image when you keep saying things like that. Then stop trying to maintain it, I said gently. You've been independent your whole life, Natalie. You've fought every battle alone because you had no other choice.
But now you do have a choice.
You can keep fighting alone, or you can let someone stand beside you. Not in front of you. Not behind you. Beside you. She wiped her eyes quickly, glancing at the children to make sure they weren't watching. Okay, she whispered. Okay. We'll come stay with you. But Vincent, I need you to promise me something. Anything. Promise me you won't kill those men. Promise me you'll let the justice system do its job, even if it's imperfect. Promise me you'll prove that there's another way. I wanted to promise. I wanted to tell her I'd walk away from violence, from revenge, from everything that made me who I was. But I couldn't lie to her. I promise I won't kill them without cause, I said carefully. But if they come after you, if they threaten Lily, if they force my hand, then all bets are off. I will protect you, Natalie. By whatever means necessary. That's the only promise I can make. She nodded slowly. It wasn't the answer she wanted, but it was the truth. And somehow, I think she respected that more than a comfortable lie. Lily, she called softly. Sweetheart, come here for a minute. Lily bounced over, Julian following more slowly behind her. We're going to go stay with Vincent and Julian for a while, Natalie said. Would you like that? Lily's eyes went huge. Really? We get to stay at their house? With Julian? Can I bring my stuffed animals? Can I bring my books? Will there be room for all my drawings? Yes to all of that, I said, smiling at her enthusiasm. Julian can show you your room. It has windows that look out over the garden. I think you'll like it. This is the best day ever. Lily threw her arms around her mother. Thank you, Mom. Thank you for saying yes. Natalie hugged her daughter tight, her eyes meeting mine over Lily's shoulder. In that look I saw trust. Fragile, uncertain, but there. And I made a silent vow that I would never betray that trust. Whatever it cost me, whatever I had to sacrifice. These two people who'd stumbled into my life in the worst possible moment had somehow become the most important thing in my world. I just didn't know yet how much that would cost all of us. The first week of Natalie and Lily living in my home passed in a blur of adjustments and small revelations. My house, a sprawling estate on the edge of the city that I'd bought more for security than comfort, suddenly felt alive in a way it hadn't since Rebecca died. Lily's laughter echoed through the halls. Her drawings appeared on the refrigerator. Her stuffed animals took up residence in the guest room that became hers. And Julian, my quiet, serious son who'd spent too much of his young life surrounded by adults and their heavy silences, he smiled. Really smiled. The kind of smile that lit up his whole face and reminded me of Rebecca. Natalie worked her shifts at the hospital and came home to find dinner waiting, Maria fussing over her like she was family, and Lily happy and safe and playing with Julian in the garden. I watched her struggle with accepting it all. The help, the safety, the sense of home. She'd been alone for so long that having people care about her felt foreign. Dangerous even. Like if she let herself need it, it would be ripped away. I understood that feeling better than she knew. But it was the small moments that got to me. The way she'd check on Julian before going to bed, smoothing his hair and pulling his blanket up even though he wasn't her son. The way she'd leave me notes about my wound, reminding me to change the dressing and take the antibiotics. The way she'd sit with me in the evenings after the children were asleep, drinking tea and talking about nothing and everything. We were building something. I didn't have a name for it yet. Didn't dare examine it too closely. But it was there, growing stronger every day. And then the threat started. It began with a phone call to the hospital. Someone asking for Nurse Rivers, wanting to know her schedule. When the receptionist said Natalie was unavailable, the caller had laughed and said, "Tell her we're looking forward to seeing her in court. Tell her to watch her back." Natalie told me about it that evening. Her hands were shaking as she held her teacup. The bruises on her face had faded to yellow and green, almost gone now, but the fear in her eyes was fresh and raw. "They know where I work," she said quietly. We were in my study, the door closed so the children wouldn't hear. "They know my schedule. Vincent, what if they come after me at the hospital? There are patients there, innocent people. I can't put them at risk." "You won't," I said. I was sitting across from her in the leather chair I used when I needed to think, to plan, to calculate moves and countermoves. "Starting tomorrow, you'll have protection. Marco will drive you to and from work. One of my men will be in the hospital at all times, dressed as a visitor. No one will get close to you." "I can't have armed guards following me around the hospital," she protested. "People will notice. They'll ask questions. I could lose my job." "Then I'll buy the hospital," I said simply. She stared at me. "You can't just buy a hospital. Watch me." "Vincent, no. That's insane. That's exactly the kind of thing that makes people afraid of you. You can't just throw money at every problem and expect it to disappear." "Why not?" I asked. "Money is power. Power is protection. I have both, and I'm going to use them to keep you safe. That's not negotiable." She stood up, pacing to the window. Outside, I could see Julian and Lily playing in the garden. Maria was with them, watching carefully. The sun was setting, painting everything gold and orange. "This is my life we're talking about," Natalie said, her back to me.
My job.
"My independence. I appreciate everything you're doing, truly I do. But I can't let you turn my entire existence into some kind of fortress. That's not living. That's just surviving with better furniture." I stood up and walked to her, put my hands on her shoulders, gentle but firm. She tensed for a moment, then relaxed into my touch. "For now, surviving is enough," I said quietly. "The trial is in 6 weeks. 6 weeks of testimony and cross-examination, and those men staring at you from the defense table. 6 weeks of them trying to intimidate you, to make you recant your statement, to paint you as a liar or worse. And you're going to stand up there anyway because you believe in justice. So let me believe in protection. Let me keep you safe while you fight your battle. After the trial, after they're convicted and locked away, then we can talk about what comes next." She turned to face me. We were close now, close enough that I could smell her shampoo, something floral and clean. Close enough to see the gold flecks in her hazel eyes. Close enough to feel the warmth of her breath. "What happens after the trial?" she asked softly. "Do Lily and I go back to our apartment? Back to our old life? Do we pretend these weeks never happened? Is that what you want?" I asked. My hands were still on her shoulders. I should have moved them. Should have stepped back. Should have maintained the professional distance that would keep both of us safe from whatever this was building between us. But I didn't move. Neither did she. "I don't know what I want," she admitted. "A month ago my life was simple. Hard, but simple. Work, take care of Lily, survive another day. Now I'm living in a mansion with a man who terrifies half the city and makes me feel safer than I've ever felt. My daughter has a best friend who makes her laugh until she can't breathe. I come home to dinner and conversation and someone who actually cares if I'm okay. And it scares me, Vincent. It scares me how much I don't want to give this up." "Then don't," I said. The words came out rougher than I intended. "Don't give it up. Stay. After the trial, after everything, just stay." "You don't mean that," she said. But there was hope in her voice. Desperate, fragile hope. "I never say things I don't mean," I told her. My hand moved from her shoulder to her face, cupping her cheek. My thumb traced the last fading bruise near her eye. "You and Lily, you've brought something back into this house that I thought died with Rebecca. Light. Laughter. Life." Julian smiles now. Really smiles. "And I find myself coming home early just to see if you're here, to talk to you, to listen to you tell me about your day. That's not nothing, Natalie. That's everything." Tears spilled down her cheeks. "I don't know how to do this," she whispered. "How to let someone in. How to trust that it won't all fall apart. Everyone I've ever loved has left me. My parents died. Lily's father abandoned us. I've been alone for so long that I don't remember how to be anything else." "You're not alone anymore," I said. I leaned forward slowly, giving her time to pull away, time to stop this before it started. But she didn't pull away. She leaned in, and when our lips met it was soft and gentle and tasted like tears and tea and something that felt dangerously like hope. The kiss lasted only a moment before she pulled back, eyes wide. "We shouldn't," she said. "This complicates everything. The trial, the living situation, what's best for the kids." "You're right," I agreed. "We shouldn't." But neither of us moved apart. We stood there in my study with the sunset painting us gold, and the sound of our children laughing in the garden, and something fragile and precious blooming between us. The moment shattered when my phone rang. I checked the screen. It was Detective Morrison, the cop investigating Natalie's case. I answered immediately. "Kane," I said. "Mr. Kane, this is Detective Morrison. I'm calling to inform Ms. Rivers that there's been a development in her case. Is she available?" "She's here. I'm putting you on speaker." I hit the button and held the phone between us. Natalie's face had gone pale. "Ms. Rivers," Morrison said, his voice grave. "I'm afraid I have bad news." The 2 men we arrested, they made bail this morning. The third one, the one who was shot by the store owner, he died from his injuries. The other 2 are out pending trial. Natalie grabbed my arm. Her nails dug into my skin. They're out? How is that possible? They tried to kill me. They were charged with assault and attempted robbery, Morrison said. The judge set bail at $50,000 each. Someone posted it. We don't know who yet, but we're investigating. Ms. Rivers, I want to assure you that we're taking your safety seriously. I can arrange for patrol cars to drive by your residence regularly. That won't be necessary, I said coldly. Ms. Rivers is staying with me. She's under my protection. There was a pause. Mr. Kane, with all due respect, private security isn't the same as police protection. No, I agreed. It's better. Those men won't get within a mile of her. I guarantee it. See that they don't, Morrison said. Because if anything happens to our witness, the case falls apart. And I want these animals behind bars as much as you do. He hung up. Natalie was trembling now, full body shakes that she couldn't control. I pulled her against me, and she buried her face in my chest. They're out, she whispered. They're out there somewhere, and they know where I live, and they're going to come for me. They know where you used to live, I corrected. They don't know you're here. And even if they figure it out, they'll have to go through me first. Through Marco and my entire organization. Through security measures that would make Fort Knox jealous. You're safe, Natalie. I promise you you're safe. What if they go after Lily? Her voice broke. What if they can't get to me, so they try to hurt her instead? Vincent, I can't. I won't survive if something happens to my daughter. Nothing will happen to her, I said firmly. I pulled back to look at her, to make sure she heard me and believed me. Starting tomorrow, Lily doesn't go anywhere without protection. Maria will take her to school and pick her up. One of my men will be stationed outside the school at all times. When she's here, she's behind gates and walls and guards. She's as safe as Julian, and I would die before I let anyone hurt my son. Do you understand? I will protect both of them with my life. She nodded slowly.
I'm sorry.
I'm sorry for falling apart. I'm supposed to be strong.
You're strong, I said.
You're the strongest person I've ever met. But even strong people need someone to lean on sometimes. Let me be that for you. Please. She nodded again, not trusting her voice. I held her while she cried, while the fear and stress and trauma of the past weeks poured out of her. And I made a decision. Those men who'd hurt her, who'd tried to destroy her, who were now out walking free and probably planning their next move, they were going to disappear. Not killed. I'd promised Natalie I wouldn't kill them without cause. But disappeared. Vanished. Gone in a way that the police would investigate, but never solve. I'd make some calls in the morning. Talk to some people who owed me favors. By tomorrow night, those 2 men would be on a cargo ship bound for somewhere very far away, where they'd spend the rest of their lives working off debts they didn't know they owed. It wasn't justice. Not the kind Natalie believed in. But it was protection. And right now, that mattered more. Later that night, after Natalie had pulled herself together and we'd tucked the children into bed, she found me in the kitchen. I was making tea, something I'd started doing since she moved in. Her evening ritual had become mine. Thank you, she said quietly, for everything today. For the protection. For letting me fall apart. For not judging me for being scared. There's no judgment here, I said, handing her a cup. Just understanding. She sipped the tea, then looked at me with those eyes that saw too much. You're going to do something, aren't you? To those men. Something that goes beyond legal protection. I could have lied. Should have lied. But I'd promised myself I'd always be honest with her. Yes, I said simply. Will they suffer? She asked. They'll wish they'd never touched you, I replied. But they'll live. They'll just live very far away from here, in circumstances that make prison look comfortable. She was quiet for a long time. Then she set down her tea and took my hand. I should tell you that's wrong, she said. I should insist you let the justice system handle it. I should be horrified that you're planning to essentially kidnap two men and ship them overseas. But you're not, I said. No, she admitted. I'm not. And that scares me almost as much as them being free. Because it means I'm changing, Vincent. Being here with you, seeing how you protect the people you care about, it's changing how I see the world. And I don't know if that's a good thing. Maybe it's not about good or bad, I said. Maybe it's just about survival. About doing what needs to be done to protect the people we love. Is that what this is? She asked softly. Love. I looked at her standing in my kitchen at midnight, holding a cup of tea and asking questions that terrified me. I thought about Rebecca and how I'd loved her with everything I had. How losing her had broken me so completely I'd thought I'd never feel that way again. And I thought about Natalie and Lily and how in just 2 weeks they'd become essential to me. How the house felt wrong when Natalie was at work. How Julian's happiness mattered more because I saw how much Lily's friendship meant to him. How every time Natalie smiled at me, I felt something warm unfold in my chest. I don't know, I said honestly. I loved once before, and it destroyed me. I swore I'd never let myself feel that way again. But then a little girl grabbed my arm and begged me to save her mother, and everything I thought I knew about myself turned out to be wrong. Natalie set down her tea and stepped closer to me. Close enough that I could see the pulse beating in her throat. Close enough to count each gold fleck in her eyes. I'm terrified of this, she said.
Of you.
Of what you make me feel. Of how much I want this to be real. It is real, I said. My hands found her waist, pulled her closer. This, us, whatever this is becoming, it's the most real thing in my life right now. Then show me, she whispered. Show me that this isn't just about protection or gratitude or proximity. Show me that you feel this too. I kissed her. Not gentle this time. Not soft. This was hunger and need, and everything I'd been holding back since she'd stitched me up in her tiny apartment with her face bruised and broken but her spirit undefeated. She kissed me back with equal intensity, her hands fisting in my shirt, pulling me closer. We broke apart, breathing hard. Her lips were swollen, her eyes dark with desire and something deeper. The kids, she said breathlessly, are asleep. I finished. 2 floors up. Maria is in her room. We're alone. This is insane, she said. We barely know each other. I know you're brave and strong and kind, I countered. I know you work yourself to exhaustion for your daughter. I know you believe in justice even when the system fails you. I know you kiss like you're drowning, and I'm air. What else do I need to know? She laughed, the sound shaky. You're dangerous. Yes, I agreed. But never to you. Never to Lily. Never to the people I care about. Promise me, she said. Promise me that if this falls apart, if we try this and it doesn't work, you'll still protect Lily. That she won't lose Julian's friendship. That my mistakes won't cost her the first real friend she's ever had. I promise, I said. But it's not going to fall apart, Natalie. I don't do things halfway. When I commit to something, to someone, I'm all in. And I'm all in with you. With Lily. With this family we're building. So if you're going to run, do it now. Because once we cross this line, I'm not letting you go. She looked at me for a long moment. I could see her thinking, weighing, deciding. And then she smiled, really smiled, and it was like the sun coming out after storm. Then I guess we're crossing the line, she said. And she kissed me again, and everything else fell away. 2 weeks passed. 2 perfect weeks where Natalie and I fell into a rhythm that felt like destiny. She worked her shifts, came home to me, to us, to this family we were building. The children were inseparable, already calling each other best friends. Maria treated Natalie like the daughter she never had. And I fell deeper every day. We were careful around the kids, nothing too obvious, but they weren't blind. They saw the way we looked at each other. The way Natalie's hand would find mine under the dinner table. The way I'd wait up for her when she worked late shifts, just to talk before bed. Julian asked me one morning if Natalie was going to be his new mom. The hope in his eyes nearly broke me. I told him I didn't know yet, that adults needed time to figure things out, but that I cared about her very much. He'd smiled and said he hoped she stayed forever, because Lily was the best friend he'd ever had and her mom made me happy. Out of the mouths of children. The trial was 3 weeks away. The 2 men who'd been released on bail had vanished, exactly as I'd planned. The police were investigating, but they'd find nothing. Those men were halfway across the world working in conditions that made their attack on Natalie seem merciful by comparison. They'd never see this city again. I should have known it was too perfect. Should have remembered that in my world, happiness came with a price. The bomb dropped on a Tuesday evening. Natalie was at work. The kids were doing homework in the living room with Maria supervising. I was in my study handling business when Marco knocked on the door. "Boss, we have a problem," he said. His face was grim. "What kind of problem?" He handed me a folder. Inside were photographs. Me and Natalie, kissing in the kitchen, walking in the garden with the kids, her leaving my bedroom early one morning when she'd thought everyone was asleep. Someone had been watching us. Someone had been documenting our relationship. Where did these come from? I asked, my voice deadly calm. They were delivered to Detective Morrison an hour ago, Marco said, along with an anonymous tip that you're bribing a witness. That your relationship with Ms. Rivers is designed to keep her from testifying or to influence her testimony. My blood ran cold. That's insane. I haven't influenced her testimony at all. She's still planning to testify. I know that, Marco said. But the DA doesn't. They're reviewing the case now. There's talk of dropping the charges because the witness has been compromised. And Morrison, he's pissed. He thinks you played him. I stood up, my mind racing. Who sent the photos? We don't know yet. But boss, there's more. The 2 men we sent away, the ones on that cargo ship, someone paid their bail. Someone knew they were going to disappear, and they documented it. They're building a case against you. Witness tampering.
Kidnapping.
Racketeering. They're trying to take you down, and they're using Ms. Rivers to do it. I felt the walls closing in. Everything I'd built, everything I'd done to protect Natalie, it was being twisted into something else. Something that could destroy both of us. Get me everything you can on who sent those photos, I ordered. Call my lawyer. And find out exactly what the DA is planning. Marco nodded and left. I stood there staring at the photographs, at the evidence of my happiness being used as a weapon. I heard the front door open. Natalie's voice calling out that she was home. The kids running to greet her. Her laughter as Lily told her about the day. Normal.
Perfect.
About to shatter. She found me 20 minutes later after she'd tucked Lily into bed. One look at my face, and she knew something was wrong. What happened? She asked. I handed her the folder. Watched her face go pale as she flipped through the photos. Someone's been watching us, I said. They sent these to the police. They're claiming I'm tampering with you as a witness. The DA might drop the case.
What?
She looked up at me, eyes wide with shock. But I haven't changed my testimony. I'm still going to tell the truth. Our relationship has nothing to do with the case. I know that, I said. But it doesn't matter. The appearance of impropriety is enough. And Natalie, there's more. Those 2 men who disappeared, someone documented that too. They're building a case against me. If they can prove I made them vanish, I'm looking at federal charges. She sat down heavily, the folder falling from her hands. This is my fault. I should have known better than to get involved with you while the case was pending. I should have kept my distance. Don't, I said sharply. Don't you dare blame yourself for this. We fell in love. That's not a crime. Love. She looked up at me, tears streaming down her face. You love me? Of course I love you, I said, kneeling in front of her, taking her hands. I love you and Lily. I love the life we're building. I love coming home to you. I love watching our kids be happy together. I love everything about this, about us. Then what do we do? She whispered. Because if the case gets dropped, those men go free. And if you get arrested, Julian loses his father. And Lily and I, we go back to being alone. Everything falls apart. I had no answer. For the first time in years, I had no plan, no solution, no way to fix this. We fight, I finally said. We tell the truth. We make them see that our relationship is separate from the case. And we find out who's behind this and we make them pay. More violence, she said sadly. More revenge. That's always your answer, isn't it? It's the only answer I have, I admitted. I'm not a good man, Natalie. I told you that from the beginning. I solve problems with power and money, and when that doesn't work, with force. That's who I am. I know who you are, she said. And I fell in love with you anyway. But Vincent, we can't keep doing things your way. We have to trust the system. We have to believe that the truth will come out and justice will prevail. And if it doesn't? I asked. If they drop the case and arrest me and everything we've built falls apart, then what? Then at least we did the right thing, she said. At least we can look at ourselves in the mirror and know we didn't compromise our values. I wanted to argue. Wanted to tell her that values didn't matter when you were in prison or dead. But looking at her face, at the conviction in her eyes, I realized she needed to believe this. Needed to hold on to the idea that doing the right thing mattered. So I nodded. Okay. We do it your way. We cooperate with the investigation. We tell the truth. We trust the system. She threw her arms around me, holding tight. Thank you. Thank you for trusting me. I held her and prayed I wasn't making the biggest mistake of my life. The next 2 weeks were hell. The DA launched a full investigation into my relationship with Natalie. We were interviewed separately, asked invasive questions about when our relationship started, how it developed, whether I'd ever discussed her testimony with her. We told the truth. Every word of it. But I could see the skepticism in their eyes. They didn't believe that a man like me could fall in love without an agenda. The media got hold of the story. Suddenly we were front-page news. Mob boss romance's star witness. Love or leverage. The Vincent Kane scandal. They camped outside my gates. Followed Natalie to work. Tried to interview the kids at school. I had to pull Julian and Lily out of school. Hire private tutors. Watch them lose their freedom because adults couldn't leave well enough alone. Natalie was suspended from the hospital pending the investigation. They said it was standard procedure, that they needed to determine if she'd violated any ethics guidelines by getting involved with me. But I knew what it really was. Punishment. A warning to anyone else who might consider stepping outside the lines. She tried to stay strong, but I watched her crumble piece by piece. The woman who'd survived foster care and single motherhood and a brutal attack, she was being destroyed by bureaucracy and public opinion. One night I found her in Lily's room, watching her daughter sleep, tears streaming down her face. I've ruined everything, she whispered when she noticed me. Lily can't go to school. I can't work. You're under investigation. All because I was selfish enough to want happiness. You didn't ruin anything, I said, pulling her into my arms. Whoever sent those photos, whoever is orchestrating this, they're the ones responsible. Not you. Does it matter? She asked. The result is the same. We're all suffering. I had no answer to that. 2 days later, the other shoe dropped. The DA announced they were dropping all charges against the remaining attackers. Insufficient evidence. Compromised witness. The case was dead. Natalie broke. Completely broke. She locked herself in her room and cried for hours. When she finally emerged, her eyes were empty. Dead. They're free, she said flatly. Those men who tried to destroy me, who would have if you hadn't stopped them, they're walking free. And it's because I fell in love with you. Because I was stupid enough to think I could have both justice and happiness. We can appeal, I said desperately. We can find another way. There is no other way, she said. It's over. They won. That night, she told me she was leaving, taking Lily, and moving out. Going back to her apartment, her old life, trying to rebuild what we destroyed. Please don't, I begged. Please, Natalie. We can fix this. Together. There's no together anymore, she said, her voice dead. There's just you in your world and me in mine, and we never should have tried to bridge that gap. What about us? I asked. What about what we feel for each other? What we feel doesn't matter, she said. Look at what our feelings have cost everyone. Julian and Lily can't have a normal life. I can't work. You're under investigation. Those men are free. Our feelings destroyed everything good we were trying to build. So you're just giving up? I couldn't keep the anger out of my voice. You're going to walk away and pretend this never happened? I'm doing what I should have done from the beginning, she said. I'm protecting my daughter. And right now, that means getting her away from your world before it destroys her too. She left the next morning, packed up Lily's things, thanked Maria for everything, hugged Julian goodbye while both children cried, and walked out of my life. Julian was devastated. He didn't understand why his best friend was leaving. Why Natalie, who he'd started calling almost mom when he thought I couldn't hear, was abandoning him just like his birth mother had. I tried to explain, but what could I say? That adults were complicated? That sometimes love wasn't enough? That the world was cruel and happiness was temporary and trust was a luxury we couldn't afford? For 3 days, I didn't hear from Natalie. 3 days of Julian barely eating, barely speaking, just staring out the window like he was waiting for them to come back. 3 days of me trying to figure out how to fix this and coming up empty. And then Marco knocked on my study door with news that made my blood freeze. Boss, there's been an incident. Ms. Rivers' apartment was broken into. The place was trashed. Someone left a message on the wall. What message? I asked, already moving toward the door. See you soon, Marco said. Written in red paint. And boss, Lily's stuffed animals were all torn apart. This wasn't random. Someone knew she was back. Someone wanted her to be scared. I was in my car before Marco finished talking. I didn't care about speed limits or traffic laws. I got to Natalie's apartment building in record time, took the stairs 2 at a time, and pounded on her door. She opened it. Her face was pale, her eyes red from crying. Behind her, I could see Lily sitting on the couch, surrounded by the torn remains of her beloved stuffed animals, sobbing. They found us, Natalie whispered. I don't know how, but they found us. Vincent, I'm so scared. I pulled her into my arms, felt her shaking against me. Pack a bag. You're coming back with me. Both of you. Right now. I can't, she said. We can't keep running to you every time something goes wrong. We have to stand on our own. You're not standing, I said harshly. You're drowning. And I'm not going to stand here and watch while you and Lily drown because you're too proud to accept help. It's not about pride, she cried. It's about protecting her. Don't you see? As long as we're with you, she's in danger. Your world, your enemies, they'll always come after us. They're already coming after you, I pointed out. This proves it. They found you here. They broke into your home. They terrified your daughter. At least in my house you have protection. Here you have nothing. She looked at Lily crying over her destroyed toys. Looked at the message on her wall. Looked at me. Okay, she finally whispered. Okay, we'll come back. But Vincent, this can't keep happening. We can't keep being victims. We have to find a way to end this. We will, I promised. I swear to you, we will end this. I just didn't tell her that ending it meant doing things her way had failed. Now, we were going to do things my way. Back at my house, I set Marco and every resource I had on finding out who was behind this. The photos, the leak to the DA, the break-in at Natalie's apartment, it was all connected. Someone was orchestrating a campaign to destroy both of us. It took 3 days, but Marco came through. He always did. The bail for those 2 men was posted by a shell company, he told me. We traced it through 6 layers, but we found the source.
Richard Castellano.
My blood ran cold. Richard Castellano was a rival, someone who'd been trying to move into my territory for years. I'd blocked him at every turn, cost him millions in lost revenue. He hated me. He's using Natalie to get to me, I said. Destroy her case, destroy my reputation, all to weaken my position. It's working, Marco said grimly. Some of your associates are getting nervous. They're wondering if you've gone soft. If you're putting a woman ahead of business. Let them wonder, I said. Find Castellano. I want to have a conversation with him. It wasn't hard to find him. Men like Castellano operated in the open, confident in their power. We arranged a meeting at neutral ground, an old warehouse on the docks. He showed up with 6 men. I showed up with Marco and 2 others. We stood facing each other across that empty space, and I saw the smugness on his face. Kane, he said, I wondered when you'd figure it out.
Why?
I asked simply. Why go after an innocent woman? Because you care about her, he said. And men who care are weak. You've built your empire on being ruthless, untouchable, feared. But fall in love, and suddenly you're human. Vulnerable. And vulnerability is something I can exploit. So you terrorized her, I said, my voice deadly quiet. Destroyed her case. Broke into her home and scared her child. All to prove a point. All to take what's yours, he corrected. Your territory. Your power. Your reputation. And when I'm done, maybe I'll take your woman too. She's quite beautiful, even with the bruises. I moved before my brain caught up with my body, had him by the throat, slammed against a wall. My gun pressed under his chin before his men could react. You stay away from her, I growled. You stay away from her daughter. You stay away from everything and everyone I love, or I will burn your entire operation to the ground and salt the earth where it stood. His men had their guns out now, trained on me. Marco and my men had their guns trained on Castellano's men. Mexican standoff. You can't kill me, Castellano choked out. Kill me and my people will destroy everything you've built. Your businesses. Your home. Everyone you care about. He was right, and I hated him for it. Violence wasn't the answer here. For once, I needed something smarter than brute force. I released him, stepped back. I'm going to make you an offer, I said. One time only. I'm listening, he said, rubbing his throat. I'll give you the territory you want. The docks, the warehouses, all of it. In exchange, you leave Natalie alone. You drop your campaign against her. You make sure those 2 men never come back to this city. And you never, ever mention her or her daughter again. Castellano stared at me. You'd give up millions of dollars in revenue for a woman? Yes, I said simply. I would. He laughed. You really have gone soft. The Winter King brought down by love. It's almost poetic. Do we have a deal or not? I asked. He studied me for a long moment. Deal. But Kane understand this. You're weakened now. Other people will see what I've seen. That you're willing to sacrifice power for personal happiness. That makes you a target. Let them try, I said. I'm still the Winter King. I'm just fighting for something worth more than territory now. We shook on it. A deal between criminals, binding as any contract. He'd leave Natalie alone, and I'd give up a significant part of my empire. When I got home and told Natalie what I'd done, she was horrified. You can't give up your business for me, she said. Vincent, that's insane. It's already done, I said. And I'd do it again. I'd give up everything if it meant keeping you and Lily safe. But that's not sustainable, she argued. You can't keep sacrificing pieces of yourself, of your life, for us. Eventually there won't be anything left. Then I'll have nothing but you, I said. And that's enough. That's more than enough. She kissed me then, fierce and desperate. I love you, she said against my lips. I love you so much it terrifies me. I love you too, I said. And I'm not letting you go.
Not now.
Not ever. Even if loving me destroys you? She asked. Especially then, I replied. Because you and Lily, you're what makes me human. You're what makes me more than just the Winter King. And I'd rather be human and destroyed than powerful and empty. That night we told the kids. Told them that we were together, that we were a family now, that nothing was going to separate us again. Julian and Lily screamed with joy and spent an hour planning their future as siblings. Watching Natalie smile for the first time in weeks, I knew I'd made the right choice. Power and territory didn't matter. Money didn't matter. All that mattered was this family, this love. But the universe wasn't done testing us yet. 2 weeks later, Detective Morrison called. He had news. The case had been reopened. A new witness had come forward, someone who'd seen the attack and had been too scared to testify before. But now, with Castellano's protection removed after our deal, she felt safe enough to speak up. Her testimony combined with yours would be enough to prosecute, Morrison said. But Ms. Rivers, you need to decide. Are you willing to testify after everything that's happened? Natalie looked at me. I saw the fear in her eyes, but also the determination. The same determination that had made her keep fighting when 5 men held her down. The same determination that had made her stitch me up while her own face bled. Yes, she said. I'll testify. The trial was set for 3 weeks later. This time, the DA took precautions. The judge ordered both defendants held without bail. Extra security was arranged for the courthouse. And my presence at trial was forbidden to avoid any appearance of impropriety. I had to watch the woman I loved walk into that courthouse alone while I waited at home, powerless to protect her. The trial lasted 4 days. 4 days of Natalie sitting on that witness stand, recounting the worst night of her life while those men stared at her. 4 days of defense attorneys trying to break her, to make her doubt her memory, to paint her as unreliable. She never wavered. Not once. The new witness, a young woman named Amanda who'd been too scared to come forward before, she corroborated everything. She'd seen the attack from her apartment window. Seen them grab Natalie. Seen Lily bite one of them and run. Seen me arrive and fight them off. Seen them shoot me before running away. On the 4th day, the jury deliberated for 2 hours before returning with a verdict. Guilty on all counts. Assault with intent to commit serious bodily harm. Attempted sexual assault. Attempted murder for shooting me. 25 years to life for each of them. Natalie called me from the courthouse steps, crying so hard she could barely speak. It's over, she sobbed. It's really over. They're going to prison Vincent for the rest of their lives. You did it, I said, my own voice thick with emotion. You stood up there, and you told the truth, and you won. I'm so proud of you. I want to come home, she said. I want to come home to you and the kids, and just be a family.
Can we do that now?
Can we finally just be happy? Yes, I said. Come home. We're all waiting for you. She came home to celebration. Julian and Lily had made a banner that said, "Congratulations, Mom," and Maria had cooked Natalie's favorite meal. We ate and laughed, and for the first time in months, there were no shadows hanging over us. That night, after the kids were asleep, I found Natalie on the balcony, overlooking the garden. She was staring up at the stars, a soft smile on her face. "What are you thinking about?" I asked, wrapping my arms around her from behind. "About how different my life is now compared to 6 months ago," she said. 6 months ago, I was alone, exhausted, just trying to survive one more day. Now I have you. I have this home. I have a partner who would give up his empire to keep me safe. I have my daughter happy and thriving. It doesn't even feel real. It's real, I assured her. This is real. We're real. She turned in my arms to face me. "Vincent, I need to ask you something important." "Anything." "I want to go back to work. Not at County General, there's too much history there. But nursing is who I am. It's what I do. and I need that part of my life back. Of course, I said immediately. Whatever you need. And I want Lily to go back to public school, she continued. With Julian. I want them to have normal lives. I know there are risks, but we can't live in fear forever. We can't let what happened control us. Agreed, I said. With security, obviously.
But yes.
They should go to school together. And one more thing, she said, her voice shaking slightly. I want us to be a real family. Not just two people living together. I want commitment. I want forever. I want to know that when I wake up in 10 years, you'll still be there. I pulled back to look at her. Saw the vulnerability in her eyes. The hope. The love. I dropped to one knee right there on that balcony. Natalie Rivers, I said, taking her hands. I don't have a ring yet because I'm an idiot who didn't plan this. But I know with absolute certainty that I want to spend the rest of my life with you. I want to wake up next to you every morning. I want to watch our kids grow up together. I want to be the man you see when you look at me, the one who's capable of love and gentleness and putting someone else first. Marry me. Please. Make this family official. She was crying now, tears streaming down her face. You really mean it? You want to marry me? I've never been more certain of anything, I said. I love you. I love Lily. I want to adopt her. Give her my name. Give her the father she's never had. I want Julian to have the mother he's been missing. I want all of us to be bound together legally and spiritually and every other way possible. So yes, I really mean it. Marry me. Yes, she sobbed. Yes, yes, 1,000 times yes. I stood and kissed her while she cried and laughed against my lips. And I knew, despite everything we'd been through, despite all the pain and fear and darkness, we'd found our way to the light. Together. The wedding was small and perfect. Just us, the kids, Maria, Marco, and a handful of close friends. We got married in the garden where Julian and Lily had become best friends, where Natalie and I had first kissed, where everything had begun. Lily was the flower girl, and she took her job so seriously that everyone cried watching her carefully scatter petals. Julian was my best man, and his smile was so bright it could have lit the city. When I said my vows, I promised Natalie that I would spend every day of the rest of my life proving that she'd made the right choice. That I would protect her and Lily, honor them, cherish them, and never take for granted the gift of their love. She promised to stand beside me, to help me be a better man, to never stop believing in me even when I stopped believing in myself. The kids cheered so loud when we kissed that the neighbors probably heard. That night, I officially adopted Lily. She became Lily Kane, daughter of Vincent Kane, sister of Julian Kane. She cried when I gave her the adoption papers and called me Dad for the first time. I cried too. Ugly, messy, happy tears that I didn't bother hiding. Natalie started working at a smaller hospital closer to home. She loved it, loved being back in her element, helping people, making a difference. She only worked 3 days a week now, spending the rest of her time with the kids and with me. Julian and Lily went to the same school, walked the halls together, looked out for each other the way siblings do. They fought sometimes over toys or TV shows or who got the last cookie. But they also loved each other fiercely, protectively, the way only siblings can. 6 months after the wedding, Natalie told me she was pregnant. We were having a baby together, a child that would bind all of us even tighter. Julian and Lily were ecstatic. They immediately started planning how they were going to be the best big siblings ever. They argued about names and whether the baby would like dinosaurs or princesses more. I held Natalie that night and thought about how much had changed. How a desperate little girl running into a restaurant had led to this. To happiness I'd thought I'd never feel again. To a family I'd never dare to hope for. Are you happy? Natalie asked me, her hand resting on her still, flat stomach. I'm more than happy, I said. I'm complete. You and Lily and Julian and this baby, you're everything I didn't know I needed. Even though loving me cost you part of your empire? She asked. Especially because of that, I said. Because it proved to me what really matters. And it's not power or money or fear. It's this. Coming home to you. Watching our kids grow. Building a life based on love instead of violence. That's what matters. The Winter King has melted, she teased.
No, y correcta.
He just found something worth being warm for. As I sit here today, 3 years after that night in the alley, I can tell you that life isn't perfect. I still have enemies. I still have to make hard choices. The world I operate in doesn't disappear just because I fell in love. But I have Natalie. I have Lily and Julian. I have our son, Michael, who's 18 months old now and already showing signs of being as stubborn as his mother and as protective as his father. I have a family that chose each other, that fought for each other, that refused to let darkness win. And every night when I tuck my kids into bed and kiss my wife goodnight, I remember that little girl grabbing my arm and saying, "They're beating my mom." I remember choosing to help instead of walking away. And I'm grateful every single day that I made that choice. Because that choice led me here. To happiness. To love.
To home.
So to everyone watching this, listening to this story, I want you to know something important. Sometimes the worst night of your life leads to the best thing that ever happened to you. Sometimes helping a stranger changes everything. Sometimes love is worth fighting for, worth sacrificing for, worth risking everything for. And sometimes, just sometimes, the monster everyone fears is just a man waiting for someone to see him as human. Thank you for listening to my story. If you enjoyed it, please like this video, subscribe to the channel, and share it with someone who needs to hear that happy endings are possible even after the darkest nights. Drop a comment below telling me what you thought, what resonated with you, what you'd like to hear more about. Because this isn't just my story. It's a story about all of us. About survival and strength and the incredible power of love to transform even the coldest heart. Until next time, remember, be brave, be kind, and never walk away when someone asks for help. You never know whose life you might change, or whose life might change yours.